I want you to picture a garden. The dirt is coarse and rough, the kind of awful stuff that really crunches under your foot when you step on it. The garden is filled with cracked pavers and discarded bricks, weeds desperately growing through the cracks and clinging to life. There's not much in this garden but a few shrubs, some dead bushes, maybe some trees that once were. Now, put yourself in this garden and take a little flower. You're going to dig a hole and put the flower in it. Pat the earth back down, sprinkle some water on it, and take a step back. What do you think is going to happen to that flower? Now, picture yourself in the opposite kind of garden. A garden with lush green grass, fertile soil. There are bushes and hedges, well trimmed and manicured, filling the space. Flower beds, roses, little pavers making paths through the garden. I want you to put yourself in this garden now and do the same thing you did in the last. Dig a little hole and plant a flower in that hole. Pat the earth back down, sprinkle some water on it, and take a step back. What do you think happens to this flower? How does it compare to the last flower that you planted? Yeah, there might be a difference. But what you need to realize is that you are that flower. And just like how a flower will flourish or wither depending on the quality of its environment, so do you. I want you to have a look at your own garden, the environment that you're in. Is it good? What's first come to mind when I asked you that? Is it the room you live in? The house? Is it your friends, your family, your partner, your job? What came to mind? These are the things that make up your environment. And if these aren't of good quality, just like the flower, you might not flourish. You might just wither. As they say, garbage in, garbage out. Your inputs determine your output. So, what can we do to change the quality of your environment? Let's start with housing. Let's start with your bedroom. Look around at your bedroom. Is it clean? Is it orderly? Are there dirty clothes lying on the floor? Or are they folded and hung up or put in a drawer? If it is dirty, I want you to remember what an old Canadian psychologist once said. Your room is an externalization of your mind. If you've got a messy room, you might have a messy mind. If you have a messy mind, I can guarantee you probably have a messy room. So, dealing with a messy mind is pretty hard work. But dealing with a messy room is a lot easier. And you don't have to deep clean the whole thing straight away. You can start in small chunks. If you've got a desk, start there. Take away any rubbish, any dirty dishes, cups, anything like that. Go clean them up, or at least put them in the kitchen. And wipe down your desk. Boom. You've got to start. Then you can look at the bed, your drawers, your cupboard. Get to the floors. Once you've cleaned up your room, you've got a little bastion against the chaos of life. A little place to call your own environment to safely grow. And you can expand out from there. The rest of your house, your street, things like that. But start at your desk or on your bed, somewhere small and manageable. Next, let's talk about friends. Friends are a tricky one. As they say, if you want to know or get an idea of a person, look at their 3 closest friends. And apparently we're a reflection of that. So look at your friends. Are your friends people that you want to be? I hope that they are. But sometimes they're not. And I know that personally. There was a time in my life, when I'd recently come out of high school. I'd stuck with the same friends for pretty much forever. But these weren't people that I wanted to be. I had ideas and a vision and thoughts about who I wanted to be as a person. I didn't see that reflected in the people around me. So something had to change, because the more I tried to change, the more pushback I got from the people around me. There was, the patterns and the ways that we lived for so long that was so natural to everyone, including myself. And any sort of change to that wasn't received well. It was hard enough trying to change myself, let alone change myself in that environment. So sometimes you've got to cut the dead weight. And that's not easy, especially when you don't have other friends to turn to. I'll make another video at some point with a sort of a guide on how to make friends, because I think that's a really useful thing to have, and I'll share some of the tips and tricks I learned along the way after throwing everything away and starting from scratch. And I haven't touched on like family or relationships, but I want you to know it's the same principle. If people are holding you back and are not letting you change, then something has to give, either them or you, and that's your choice to make. So now let's talk about job. If you're working full time or anything close to it, your job is where you spend a lot of your day, and you need to take a good hard look at that. For example, I'll share one of the jobs I had. I've had a lot and they're quite varied, but I spent maybe a year working as a administration officer in my local hospital, a pretty big one. And I worked doing data entry for a while. And the office I worked in was in the center of the hospital. There were no windows, no natural light, no natural breeze, just this sometimes working air conditioning that we didn't have control over, but just had to live with. And I sat in this non-cubicle. It wasn't even a private space. It was just a desk with a computer screen, and I'd take paperwork and I'd enter it into a computer work. And no matter how hard I worked, it was Sisyphean. There was always more work to do. I could do an amazing job. I could really smash through it, but nothing would change. And so I'd spend day after day getting on the bus in the morning when it was dark, and that cliche, I got there when it was dark and I left when it was dark kind of thing. And I didn't see the sun because I didn't have a window, and it was terrible. But I'm an optimistic person, or I try to be, and I wanted to be that person, so that's who I was trying to be. So I'd go to work and I was trying not to let it bring me down, but when you're in that environment for so long, it has its impacts. So I started noticing that I was a bit more depressed. I wasn't feeling as good. It was hard for me to be as cheerful. It was hard for me to find the energy to do the things I wanted to do, like the sports that I do and that. And I realized that this job was having a serious impact on me. And it wasn't making me into the kind of person that I wanted to be. It was turning me into something that I didn't want to be. Now, I was fortunate enough to be in the position where I didn't have too many responsibilities at the time, and I could look at getting out of that job and doing something different. And we don't always have that sort of privilege. But it's something to consider and something to think about. You spend a massive amount of your life at your job. So take a good hard look at it. Look at the people that you're working with, the space that you're working in, and the kind of work that you're doing. Is that making you the kind of person that you want to be? So, I've thrown a lot of ideas at you over the last few minutes, and I want you to consider them. I really think you should, because just like that flower, your environment is determining your growth, or maybe lack thereof. And if you want to continue growing as a person, if that's something that matters to you, or even if you just want to improve the quality of your life, starting with your environment, whether it's your room, your job, your social environment with your friends, these are all things that you can make changes in. And I can guarantee that improving the quality of any of those things is going to improve the quality of your life and improve your ability to grow. But I can't force that on you. And the decision is always up to you. So I've given you some ideas to play with and maybe some directions to go. But now it's up to you. What are you going to do?